It's 3 a.m. You're lying in bed. The lights are off. The house is silent. Everyone else is asleep. But your brain is not. It's running. It's spinning. It's replaying a conversation you had 3 days ago. You think about what you should have said, what you could have said differently, the look on their face, the pause before they responded, the way they didn't text you back. And then you think about tomorrow, the meeting you're dreading, the email you haven't sent, the person you need to talk to. And then you think about next month, the decision you haven't made, the path you haven't chosen, the life you might have lived if only you'd done something different. You can't sleep. You can't stop. You're not tired. You're trapped. This is overthinking, and it is one of the most exhausting, destructive, and deeply human habits you will ever have. Let's start with what overthinking actually is. Psychologists call it rumination. It's the tendency to repeatedly chew on the same thoughts, like a cow chewing cud. You're not solving anything. You're not making progress. You're just cycling through the same material over and over again, hoping that if you think about it enough, you'll find a way out. But you don't. You just get more stuck. In 2014, a team of researchers at the University of California, San Diego, published a study that found overthinking is associated with reduced activity in the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for problem-solving, decision-making, and emotional regulation. In other words, the more you overthink, the worse you get at the very thing you're trying to do. It's a vicious cycle. The more you ruminate, the less capable you become of solving the problem. And the less capable you become, the more you ruminate. So why do we do it? The answer is surprisingly simple. Overthinking is a survival mechanism. Your brain is wired to anticipate threats. It evolved to scan for danger, to predict what might go wrong, to prepare for worst-case scenarios. In the ancestral environment, that was useful. If you overthought the rustle in the bushes, you survived the predator attack. The overthinkers were the survivors. The ones who didn't think enough? They died. And so you inherited a brain that is hyper-vigilant, hyper-aware, hyper-susceptible to worry. But here's the problem. The threats you're thinking about aren't predators. They're emails. They're conversations. They're social evaluations. They're future hypotheticals. Your brain is running ancient software on modern hardware. It doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a passive-aggressive text message. It processes both as a threat, and it responds accordingly, by flooding your system with cortisol, by keeping you alert, by making you obsess. In 2015, a study published in the journal Clinical Psychology Review found that rumination is a major risk factor for depression and anxiety. People who ruminate are more likely to develop these conditions, and they're more likely to struggle with them once they have them. Overthinking isn't just annoying, it's dangerous. It's a path to mental illness. And it's one of the most underappreciated causes of suffering in the modern world. So what do you do about it? You start by understanding that your brain is not your enemy. It's trying to help. It's trying to protect you. It's just using outdated tools. The key is not to fight your thoughts. The key is to change your relationship to them. One of the most effective methods is called cognitive distancing. It's the ability to step back from your thoughts and observe them without getting caught up in them. Instead of thinking, I'm a failure, you think, I'm having the thought that I'm a failure. That small shift, from identifying with the thought to observing it, creates space. It creates distance. And distance is the opposite of overthinking. In 2016, researchers at the University of Oxford published a study showing that cognitive distancing is one of the most powerful tools for reducing rumination. They found that people who practiced cognitive distancing reported lower levels of anxiety and depression, and they were better able to regulate their emotions. It's not about stopping the thoughts. It's about changing how you relate to them. Another effective strategy is to set a worry window. Instead of letting your thoughts run wild all day, you give them a designated space. You set aside 15 minutes each day to worry. During that time, you think about everything that's bothering you. You write it down. You let it out. And then, when the time is up, you close the book. You move on. This might sound simple, but it works. It trains your brain to contain the thoughts, rather than letting them spill over into every moment of your life. In 2018, a study from the University of Cambridge found that people who used worry windows experienced significant reductions in anxiety and stress. The brain, it turns out, responds to structure. It likes boundaries. It likes knowing when it's time to worry and when it's time to let go. But here's the part that nobody talks about. Overthinking is not just about anxiety. It's also about identity. We often cling to our overthinking because it feels productive. It feels like we're doing something. It feels like we care. And in some ways, we do. But caring doesn't have to mean obsessing. You can care about something without devoting every waking thought to it. You can care and still let go. There's also the role of perfectionism. People who overthink are often perfectionists. They want to get it right. They want to avoid mistakes. They want to control the outcome. And the more they try to control, the more they spiral. It's a paradox. The desire for control is what creates the uncontrollable spiral. In 2012, researchers at the University of Toronto found that perfectionism is strongly linked to rumination. Perfectionists don't just want to do well, they want to do perfectly. And when they can't, when they make a mistake, when something goes wrong, when things are uncertain, they ruminate. They replay the event. They analyze what they could have done better. They punish themselves for their imperfection. It's a form of self-punishment disguised as self-improvement. So what do you do if you're a perfectionist? You practice self-compassion. You remind yourself that you are human, that you are not perfect, that you do not need to be. You talk to yourself the way you would talk to a friend who is struggling. You don't tell them they're failing. You tell them they're trying. You tell them they're doing enough. You tell them it's okay. In 2017, a study published in the journal Mindfulness found that self-compassion is one of the most effective antidotes to overthinking. People who practice self-compassion are less likely to ruminate, less likely to experience anxiety, and more likely to feel resilient. It's not about self-indulgence. It's about self-kindness. And it's one of the most powerful tools you have. There's another piece to this puzzle. Overthinking is often fueled by avoidance. You're not actually trying to solve a problem. You're trying to avoid a feeling. You're afraid of something. Maybe it's failure. Maybe it's rejection. Maybe it's vulnerability. And so you think instead of feel. You analyze instead of act. You turn inward instead of outward. And the more you avoid, the bigger the feeling becomes. In 2020, researchers at the University of California, Berkeley, published a study showing that experiential avoidance, the tendency to avoid uncomfortable emotions, is a major driver of rumination. People who avoid their feelings end up thinking about them constantly. They can't escape the emotion, so they try to think their way out of it. But thinking doesn't resolve emotion. Action does. Connection does. Feeling does. And that leads us to the most important insight of all. Overthinking is not a problem to be solved. It's a signal. It's a signal that something needs your attention. Not your analysis, your attention, your presence, your willingness to feel what you're feeling and move through it. So the next time you find yourself spinning at 3 a.m., pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, what am I really feeling? Not what am I thinking? What am I feeling? Is it fear? Is it grief? Is it loneliness? Is it shame? Sit with it for a moment. Let it be there. And then ask yourself, what do I need right now? Not what do I need to think about? What do I need to do? To feel? To connect? And then do that. One small thing. One step forward. Because the only way out of the spiral is through action.